Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From Cardinals headquarters, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
Well, week 2 is officially behind us. We're on to week 3. Cardinals on the practice field on Wednesday, officially signaling the start of week 3. The game plan is in, and now the Cardinals will get back to work and try to get back in the win column for the first time here in 2018. Interesting, though, because of the wet stuff, wet field, and the wet stuff from the sky. That's called rain, by the way, here in Arizona. Not sure if you're aware about that, MJ, but the team practiced all in the bubble, not just what we've seen sometimes. They've kind of stretched outside and then gone into the bubble. No, every part of practice was in the bubble, which made it very nice. And, of course, crowd noise a factor as well. That always helps.
Yeah, and it's, one thing, the beauty about the NFL, I mean, we're all disappointed what's transpired in the first couple of weeks, but you get to Wednesday, you get the game plan, you got to look ahead, and, the time we were out there, we're usually out there about 20 to 25 minutes when practice starts, and then obviously the media availability. I thought there was energy. I made a comment to you, and hearing Coach Wilkes, there was a lot of energy out there. And listen, Monday they corrected their mistakes, and now we'll see how that transpires coming up on Sunday.
And, of course, we're covering it all here on Cards Cover 2. Let's take off on this Wednesday show as we let you know what's ahead on the show here this afternoon. What does scaling back the offense mean? It was talked much about on Monday. We'll dive into that, what that means for specifically David Johnson. There is wide receiver help not in the immediate plans. We'll explain that. We got your ticket to go inside the Cardinals Film Room, and, of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, and that's using the number 2 to get involved in the show here this afternoon. That's all ahead, but first, the news of the day. And how about some good news? I think the Cardinals could use some good news, and that is the fact that both defensive end Marcus Golden and tight end Jermaine Gresham, not only did they practice, but they were full participants, and that's key because while we've seen Gresham practice and we've seen Golden practice, those days have been limited. But to hear Coach Wilkes and then the official injury report come out and that full on there, that is important because now I think they're much closer to playing this week.
Yeah, they definitely missed those guys, not only from an energy and a physicality and toughness standpoint, but just from production standpoint. And we talk about Gresham where he's not interested in catching passes. Now, if his number's called, he'll catch the football, but he's really a guy that can block. He's really good in the run game when it comes to and also protecting the quarterback. And you get down to the goal line, if they can get into the red zone, which they're anticipating, he's really good in one-on-one blocking. So, to me, now we're going to have to be cautious here because they got to get into football shape, and Gresham's been doing a little bit more than Golden, so I would assume they're on a snap count. Coach Wilkes alluded to that. When it came to Marcus Golden, he's a little bit, just knocking off some of the rust, but there's a difference in being in football shape. But I'll tell you this, on paper, I really like the rotation from Chandler Jones, Benson Mayowa, and then Marcus Golden. Now you can start rotating some guys there. We talked about the rotation. Unfortunately, they don't have Pierre in there. But you still have Gunter, you still have Kemdici and Peters. So that's what they want to accomplish. But I think just bringing in Golden, you'll see the energy come game day.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that is something that Coach Wilkes brought up on Wednesday, both about Golden and Gresham having them on the field.
That is a major plus when you start talking about a team that's 0-2, that needs a spark, needs some energy. Those two guys definitely bring that, particularly Jermaine. Very vocal, high-strung guy, loves to compete. He's going to get his teammates going, and Marcus is the same way. So I can't wait to get those guys back out there, and hopefully it's this week.
Now, again, it's early in the week, but if they keep trending this way as far as full Wednesday, full Thursday, full Friday, then I don't see why they wouldn't be active on game day Sunday.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, I mean, again, you got to get into football shape. So we talked about the snap count, but just having them on the field, having them on the sidelines, the energy. And Gresham will tell you straight up, he likes to trash talk, and I think it really lifts the teammates up there. But you're going to have to be a little patient here. I mean, they're not going to come in and play all 65 snaps, but we've talked about it. They missed those guys in weeks 1 and 2, and hopefully they can come back. And to me, if there was going to be any soreness or setbacks, that would have happened last week for Golden, and that would have happened with Gresham a few weeks ago. And we haven't had any missed practices. Now they're going full go there. So those are good signs. I mean, you don't want any setbacks. I like what you said, and I think it's the key word, trending in the right direction.
Yeah, let's take a look at the rest of the official injury report for Wednesday. You'll notice that Larry Fitzgerald's name is on there because of that hamstring that popped up on Sunday. But Coach Wilkes, quote, Fitz will be ready to go on Sunday, no question. And I think typically sometimes we'll see Fitz, get that veteran day off on Wednesday during the season. So this, yes, it's a concern because it's a hamstring. You don't know how those are going to, react when you try to go full speed, but they're going to be cautious. And as Wilkes said on Sunday or on Monday when he met the media to discuss the injury, it's going to take a lot for number 11 not to be on the field, especially given the way this team has started.
Well, again, during the open portion for the media, he was out there doing stretching and doing some, obviously trying to, loosen up a little bit, and he's going to get treatment around the clock. Larry Fitzgerald will be in uniform. It's just one of those things that you got to make sure you take care of your body. He knows exactly what he's facing here. He's had hamstring injuries in the past. It really has never kept him out. The only thing that's kept him out was an MCL sprain, and that can be really painful, and he didn't miss a ton of time. And when you see Larry walk in the locker room today, no limp, nothing at all, he was getting treatment.
Two other players did not practice on Wednesday. Linebacker Dennis Gardeck with an ankle, defensive tackle Olsen Pierre because of a toe. Good to see Andre Smith back on the practice field, albeit limited. He did not dress on Sunday. Now the question, MJ, becomes Andre Smith or John Wetzel at right tackle. We haven't really heard anyone say how Wetzel graded out on Sunday, but those two basically kind of split the snap count in week one when Smith went out and Wetzel came in, but potentially maybe Wetzel stays at right tackle or Smith would get his job back.
Yeah, well, curious to see what Smith does the next couple of days. He's obviously trending in the right direction, but I don't think there's a huge drop-off. I don't know if they're equal. Maybe one's better in the run game, one's better in pass protection. So I think it's a good dilemma to have, knowing that both guys could be healthy. If not, it's likely that both will dress on game day. Either Smith starts and then Wetzel's an extra lineman you can bring in to help in the blocking game, if not protecting the quarterback.
Handful of players were limited in practice. Rudy Ford, Mike Upati, Robert Kimdichie, and also quarterback Sam Bradford, though that one was not injury-related. Now, because of Gardeck not expected to play this week, the team did go out and add a linebacker. Joe Walker signed. Team had released defensive tackle Garrison Smith on Tuesday, so there was an open roster spot, and Walker signed off the Eagles practice squad. Will take Gardeck's position, we would think, on game day. He has defensive skills, but he also could play a factor on special teams. He was limited in his role with the Eagles last year, 12 games, 3 starts, but wasn't one of those big names with that Eagles defense.
Yeah, he was released at the final cutdown the day after he was put on the practice squad, and Gardeck really hasn't played a lot on defense, at least during the first 2 games of the season. He's definitely playing a lot of special teams, so I anticipate he'll play a lot of special teams here. What you're hearing, though, when it comes to Gardeck, he could be down a week or 2 nursing the injury. And
it is week 3. The Cardinals host the Chicago Bears, 1:25 at State Farm Stadium. That means an 8:30 pregame coverage begins on the Arizona Cardinals radio network, and we'll break it down all week long here on Cards Cover 2. Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. You can watch live on azcardinals.com/live video. Search YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cards Cover 2, and of course, if you ever miss a show, download it via a podcast app, or via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. And when we get to Sunday, everyone's going to want to know, what will this offense look like? Just 6 points in 2 games. All the talk on Monday was scale back the offense. Now, what exactly does that mean? It doesn't mean this team is going to get conservative, but perhaps the number of plays in that game plan will be limited. Quarterback Sam Bradford, quarterback, meets the media on Wednesday. Bradford asked about scaling back the offense.
Just make sure that, the plays that we have in the game plan, everyone's comfortable with, versus multiple looks. Just really feel like, we own the plays that are in the game plan that week. As opposed to having so many calls on the sheet that, maybe we know them, but we're not, owning them the way that we should. And then, I think the thought is just allow everyone to go out there and play faster, simplify everything a little bit, and hopefully it shows up in the speed in which we play.
Own the plays, going back to what Wilkes said Monday about wanting to see his players play fast, meaning you're not thinking, you're just reacting, and that is kind of what Bradford alluded to there as far as just if we've got 5 plays that we are going to run out of however many different formations, we know exactly inside and out whatever formation they're lined up against the Bears do on defense. We know what we're supposed to do. Everyone knows their assignment. Let's go out with those 5 specific plays and get the job done.
Yeah, any player will tell you in the National Football League, when you're not thinking and you're just playing faster and you're reacting, it's night and day. I mean, if you got to sit there and try to figure out things in a split second, you're one step behind. Here, if you're playing faster and the players are comfortable with the calls, it's going to go a long way. Now, one thing that Cardinals have to do a better job is getting positive yards on first down, whether it's running or throwing a quick slant, and getting into more manageable third downs where 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, those are pickups where you probably rely on your running game and your run blocking. So when you're playing faster, you're obviously going to be able to make more plays, and you're going to see more production. It all comes down to execution, though.
And, of course, right now the execution, at least from a quarterback standpoint, hasn't been there. Now, is it because of the protection? Is it because of the wide receivers? The one thing that we have seen that we did not see it in training camp or preseason is Bradford being a little bit hesitant, not as confident. He doesn't look comfortable in the pocket for whatever reason. The question, though, was asked to him on Wednesday, are you playing cautious because of his injury history? He said, quote, I don't believe so, and then later on continued, I would answer no to that question. It's a valid question based off his body language on what we're seeing on Sundays because, as I mentioned, that's not what we saw leading up to the start of the regular season.
Yeah, I just maybe he's pressing and maybe he's trying to make the perfect throw. You got to find a guy that's open. Obviously, Larry's one of your go-to guys. David Johnson in the flat, Ricky Seals-Jones maybe in the middle of the field. But Christian Kirk gets off press coverage. I would prefer to see him on those crossing routes. Chad Williams, he needs to get separation. Sometimes it's just a matter of coming back for the ball because Bradford, once you make your cut or your turn, the ball's going to be there. Now, again, I just think Sam's pressing a little bit, and I think he realized, it's time to unleash and unload. And if there's opportunities to take shots down the field, meaning the intermediate routes, because the Cardinals only have 2 plays over 20 yards. That happened in week 1, 27-yard to Larry Fitzgerald, another 27-yard. Speaking of the Bears, they only have 2 splash plays in their offense over 20 yards. Now, they have scored obviously more points than the Cardinals, but the average distance on first down, the Bears are only getting about 3.5. The Cardinals are right there, so it'd be interesting to see how important first down is when it comes to dictating and how you're going to pick up third downs.
Yeah, we've been over third down just 4 of 20 converting so far through 2 games this season. The offense has been a big question mark. It just has not been doing much of anything, to be honest, here through the first 2 weeks of the season, though, according to both head coach Steve Wilkes and quarterback Sam Bradford, everything is correctable. And on Wednesday, both said the offense is, quote, close to turning it around.
Yeah, obviously it's frustrating. I think, all of us, you put so much time in the off season, in training camp, during the regular season, during practice, during your film study that, you want to go out and you want to play well. And when you don't, I think it's very frustrating, just given the amount of time and the amount of effort that you put into it. So it's definitely been a frustrating 2 weeks, but, I think, you look at it as a challenge, look at it as a way to find a solution, to keep battling, to keep competing, and find a way to get better.
As an offensive unit, do you feel like, as a group, mentally, you guys are still pretty resilient, even with everything you guys have been through the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I do. I think the attitude's been great. I thought the effort, the attitude on the practice field today was outstanding as well. So I think mentally, we're definitely all still there.
And, of course, the one big change that this offense can do and change things in a hurry is make sure David Johnson is more involved, and we've been talking about that ad nauseum now for a couple of days. The question is, how do you get David Johnson involved? You split him out, line him up in the slot, hand the ball, toss, pitch, not just hand off, run straight ahead up the middle, but do things differently to at least keep the defense on their toes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me going into this game and it's just a projection, I would think he's going to get 20 to 25 touches. And that's, if this team's going to be successful, that means they're able to run the football, and then you can get involved in the passing game. And if teams are focusing so much on David Johnson, that's going to allow other guys to get opportunities. And again, Bradford has to go through his progressions, but I would anticipate at least 25 touches between receiving and rushing.
And, of course, you have to, because players like that get into a rhythm, get them into a flow, not here's 2 carries, now take a break, or 2 carries and things aren't working out, we're going to ditch it and do something else. Even if initially it doesn't work out, whatever your plan is, continue it on into the second quarter, maybe even into the second half, and try to wear down the defense. If you're that comfortable, if you're that confident, I should say, in that offensive line, and everyone is so far, being able to maintain what you want to do and not abandon it just because it's not successful at the first turn.
Yeah, and a couple things would go a long way. Picking up third downs, okay, so now you get a little bit of rhythm and confidence on offense. And, you know, there's the opportunity to where, like you said, I mean, running backs will tell you they need their touches more from the running game. You know, you go +2, -1, and then you rip off a 15-yard run. Now you start to get in the flow of the game. One thing we haven't seen from the offense, at least consistently, is rhythm on offense, picking up third downs, you know, getting down into red zone and trying to score touchdowns.
Both head coach Steve Wilks, Sam Bradford talking about David Johnson with respects to the Cardinals offense.
Number one, we got to come off the ball. You know, we got to come off the ball. We got to create a new line of scrimmage. We got to get to the second level to give David the opportunity to be able to get one-on-one, you know, with the DB. So that's the main thing. And we got to work on trying to get the ball outside on the perimeter as well, trying to flex him out a little bit, get him in the slot, move him around, and that's what we're working on.
You know, I think with Dave, it's just, you know, if you give him enough opportunities, he's eventually going to make a play. You know, and I think it's just, you know, staying committed to finding ways to get him the ball, you know, whether it's in space, whether it's in the box. I think he's shown that, you know, he can make plays regardless of where he's at as long as the ball's in his hands. So I think it's just staying committed to getting him his touches, you know, and allowing him to be, you know, himself.
Now, look, it's not unusual for offenses to get off to a slow start. In fact, Bradford on Wednesday was asked if he's experienced this at any point in his career, and he went back to 2013 with the Rams. And that season, I went back and looked it up. They started 1-3, went 6-6 the rest of the way. But Bradford said after that 1-3 start, Jeff Fisher came in and said, we're going to switch things up. We're going to do what we do best. And if you look, 6 wins, they scored 23 or more points, 4 times scored 34 or more with a high of 42 against the Bears in Week 12. So in 2013, they turned it around with Bradford as the quarterback. The Cardinals certainly would hope that's the case here this season with Bradford as the quarterback. But again, you can talk about it. You got to see it on Sunday.
Yeah, and Bradford alluded to when Jeff Fisher came into the meeting room and says, we're going to go back to running the football. And I want to say Steven Jackson was the running back, and we're going to utilize play action. That's something we haven't seen from the Cardinals offense, and I think it's because of the limited number of snaps, because I think Bradford's one of the better quarterbacks when play action. Usually use play action on third down if you got 5 to 10 yards distance. So we need to see more of that. But the idea was pound the football with Steven Jackson. I think the similar thoughts are pound the football with David Johnson.
Yeah, and even though they have not shown it yet so far, the offense, according to Wilks and Bradford, not that far off.
We got to put our guys in position to be successful. We got to put our guys in position to try to create some matchups. You know, we say it all the time, this league is all about matchups. We see it every week. So we have talented players. We just got to make sure we put them in position to be successful, as I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have that confidence. You know, I think we all believe that. You know, I think, you know, like I said, I don't think it's anything drastic. I think it's just a bunch of little things, you know, that are happening here and there. You know, it kind of seems like we've all kind of taken turns making mistakes, you know, and I think if we can find a way to get some of those fixed, which I don't think should be an issue, I think it is close, you know. You know, sometimes that is easier said than done. You know, trying to get all of that accomplished in a week, but, you know, I think we can do it. I think everyone believes that. You know, our goal is to go out there and to prove that.
And one of those many little things that has kept this offense from moving up and down the field is the wide receivers getting separation. Wilkes brought it up again on Wednesday. They need to get separation. He wants to see this offense take some shots down the field. And but the number of times that he has said this, and we keep asking, where is it in week 1? Where is it in week 2? Perhaps that's the reason. It's not so much the protection that Bradford doesn't have the time. It's that these receivers aren't getting downfield quick enough for Bradford to get the ball off.
But I also think Wilkes alluded to, Sam's got to be a little more patient in the pocket.
Step up, yes.
Step up in the pocket. In other words, look through your progressions. Look at one guy, go through your progressions, and if you have to do the check down, usually Larry's money there, and obviously, so sometimes you got to be a little patient. And if they're getting a rush from the outside, the Tom Brady rules are step them in the pocket and make an easy throw over the middle of the field. Hopefully, he can do that. But again, though, he's got to be a little bit more patient. I know he wants to get rid of the ball. Obviously, you don't want to get hit. No quarterbacks like to get hit. But if you're a little patient, maybe somebody will get open before you thought you were going to throw it to another receiver.
Yeah, by that extra second and a half,
exactly,
which can mean all the difference. And this wide receivers, certainly been a lot of discussion about what the Cardinals need to do from the outside about improving that room, but Wilkes was steadfast once again. He admitted as much as far as the workout with Kendall Wright, but no moves are coming at the moment. He's got full confidence in those wide receivers he has currently on the roster.
We're going to make sure that we continue to try to, rotate the roster. And I don't want anyone to get complacent. I don't want anyone to get comfortable. Today was receivers, and, we just finished the workout. He looked good. I can take it without making a move, so you can go ahead and, write that down. But, what we try to do, we try to create short lists in the things that we do. So if things do come up at whatever position, we can go back. We already have the guy in here. We already have a physical on him. We can just move right now. So that's the things that we're doing at all positions.
Now, if you go back to last week, Braxton Miller, Corey Coleman, they brought in for workouts, didn't sign. Today was Kendall Wright. I don't know if they had, it sounds like they worked out receivers. I don't know. I don't have any other names. But he also said during the press conference that Trent Sherfield had a really good practice. Now, Trent Sherfield's not a guy that's got a chance to play on offense. He's more of a special teams guy. And you start looking at it, Kirk's a second-round pick. Williams a third-round pick. Sherfield, they like his upside. He's part of the future. And then you got J.J. Nelson. And so
Well, if Williams is not getting it done, which he hasn't so far, and if Nelson is given an opportunity, because he really hasn't been given an opportunity,
sure,
but if you're given that opportunity and you're not successful, well, yeah, the Cardinals are going to keep looking, and you go with what's on the active roster right now, and that's Trent Sherfield.
Yeah, and listen, every team on Tuesdays normally, they bring in different guys where maybe they feel like they're thin at certain positions. Some teams bring in 5 guys, some bring in 10. It's a ready list, and he mentioned it. You see the guy in person, you see what kind of shape he's in, you give him a physical, and so now when you call him the next time, he's ready to come in and play for you. Now he's got to learn the new system, etc. But the fact is they still like the receivers on the roster. I know the fan base probably isn't happy about that, but it's a work in progress anytime you hire a new coordinator, a new play caller, and you got a new quarterback. Now, we shouldn't be having this conversation a couple weeks from now. Usually you take 25% of the season and you can kind of gauge where they are. So hopefully we're not having this conversation in a couple weeks.
Well, I've been very impressed with Coach Wilkes because he's not afraid to let the media know what's happening as far as who they're working out. Maybe not specific names. In fact, today was the only time he's actually acknowledged a specific player working out. But linebackers, tight ends, now that is going to get printed. It's going to get talked about. And those players in the locker room are going to hear it, maybe not firsthand, but from someone else, agent, family, friends. And if you're not getting the job done, the Cardinals are going to find players that can.
Well, the word he used is complacent. Don't get comfortable. Just because you made it 53, it's a long season. And I always find it interesting now, knowing when they do this on Tuesdays, where the players' day off, some guys will come in and start to get the game plan. A lot of times
you do it within eyesight of the players in the locker room already.
Well, once the practice is over, you have your personnel department, Steve Keim and his scouts. Then you have the head coach over there, and they work out as the players are walking off the field, and they're wearing jerseys based on their positions. So you're thinking,
it's all calculated.
Yes. You could do that in a bubble at 4 o'clock. No, they do it right after practice. Now they have schedules and meetings, so it makes sense why they're doing it on their schedule. But when you're walking off the field, you see guys working out. You're thinking, that guy's been in the league for 4 years.
He plays my position.
Yeah.
I better step it up, or I'm going to be out of a job.
Or just be consistent. Bring it every day. Don't take it for granted.
Grialou, Mike Jurecki here on Cards Cover 2 with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here from the Cardinals facility in Tempe, 3 p.m. Mark it down on your calendar. We'll get you your questions via social media in just a bit using the hashtag CardsCover2. That's hashtag CardsCover2 using the number 2. Haven't talked much defense yet on the show. We are, though, going to right now and go back and highlight one specific play on Sunday. In fact, for many, it was the only play on Sunday in which the Cardinals can hang their hat on, and that is the Patrick Peterson third-quarter interception, his first of the season and the 7th of his career against the Rams. It was 3rd and 9 at the Cardinals' 21 with 11:19 to go in the quarter. 19-0 at this point, but score really doesn't matter. It's the facts on what happened between several players and then Jared Goff's decision to throw it intended for Brandon Cooks and Peterson stepping in and making the interception. As we walk into the Cardinals Film Room, Kyle Odegard of azcardinals.com joining us right now on Cards Cover 2. We had so much fun with this last week with Christian Kirk's 44-yard punt return in Week 1. We're going to dissect Peterson's third-quarter interception in Week 2. So I'm going to hand it off to you, Mr. Director. The film room is all yours.
Every week is going to be a blast. That was just the first one. Every single week is going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, obviously the one probably big splash play of the game for the Cardinals. You look at it, and it starts off, and the Cardinals had 8 guys right at the line of scrimmage. So they're feigning a blitz, and the Rams are trying to figure out who's going to come, who's going to drop into coverage. But you look at where Budda Baker is, and you look at Patrick Peterson. And when I talked to Budda, he said his mind frame is, they know we're blitzing, we know we're blitzing, I've got to get there fast because this ball is going to come out fast. And if nobody gets there and you blitz, then there's holes in the secondary and it's going to be a big play, especially when you're that close. It could be a touchdown. So he knew he had to get there. Patrick Peterson said, I'm going to look for something short because with this blitz, Jared Goff is probably going to deliver the ball quickly. So that's what they were looking at when it started. And then obviously when the play rolls, Budda Baker comes free, and it's something where he thought he might because he realized that the Rams didn't have enough blockers to stop everybody if everybody came, and a couple guys did drop, so the Rams maybe could have shuffled it and gotten him, but it's hard to figure out exactly who's coming at that point. And he obviously misses the sack here.
Yeah, Peterson in your story said, quote, Budda missed the layup, which I thought was pretty funny.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when you're untouched and you're going for the quarterback, especially a guy that isn't super mobile, Budda's going to get that sack probably 9 times out of 10. What was interesting to me is he said because of the situation, he knew it was 3rd down. He knew the Cardinals were down 19-0. So instead of just getting a sack, in his mind, he wanted a strip sack. So he was watching the ball, and he saw Jared Goff kind of bring his arm back. And at that point, he said, I'm not worried about the tackle as much as knocking this ball out, because if the Cardinals can get it out, you scoop and score, and then you're talking about a 19-7 game. You get some momentum, and all of a sudden it's something. So he thought Jared Goff was going to keep on going backwards and kind of slide out backwards the way you see most quarterbacks do. Jared Goff did a nice job of stepping up in the pocket, and Budda tried to adjust, but he couldn't get there. Spun him around, almost got him down, but Jared Goff did get away. So this point, you're kind of in a scramble drill, and it's a tough spot for defensive backs. Patrick Peterson just had to find the closest guy, which was Brandon Cooks. But one thing he did really well in this situation was stick on to Cooks. And then I asked Patrick, when did you know when to turn your head around? Because he had his eyes on Cooks. And then right when you look at Jared Goff's throwing it, that's exactly when Patrick is looking at the ball. He said you can kind of tell Brandon Cooks gave a little bit of a burst, and then he could just kind of tell that the ball was coming his way. Turned around and really good coverage, and then he told me he didn't think Goff was going to throw the ball. Goff said, I got a little greedy in this situation. It was the one throw all day that I didn't really like, and Patrick made the nice play on it too. So an athletic play and something where, in retrospect, Goff wouldn't have thrown it if he had the choice to do it again.
Now, talking to Patrick, was he surprised that he threw it?
Yeah. He thought he was just going to throw it away at that point. I mean, you see Cooks is above Peterson, so you can understand a little bit. Goff thought he could loft it over, but
we were thinking the same thing. If he throws it over him, it could be a touchdown.
And maybe the throw was just short, but from what everybody said, usually in that situation, you don't try to force it, especially against Peterson. Maybe if this is an average cornerback without all that athleticism, you try it a little bit more. And Cooks is obviously a very good receiver, but it seems like Goff after the game said he probably shouldn't have done it, and Peterson thought, I thought I had good coverage and he was going to throw it away. So when the ball came, he was pretty excited.
Yeah, and credit Peterson for getting both feet in bounds as well, something I know that he practices and acts like a wide receiver, especially when you're on that sideline, to make sure you secure the football. And for those listening to the podcast and want to see more of this, just go to azcardinals.com/film room. Kyle Odegard does a great job each and every week breaking down one specific play. And this one kind of highlighted not just Peterson's play, but I think an overall game for Patrick Peterson, because something Wilkes mentioned on Monday that, what was it, 7 or 8 tackles? 8 tackles, which
tackle for loss and a pick.
Yeah, and I have to go back. That's got to be maybe not a career high, but certainly in a top 5 for Patrick Peterson, who, one, doesn't tackle a lot just because corners just typically don't tackle.
Or he doesn't get targeted.
Yeah, that's the other point. Yeah, but in this defense, Wilkes wants corners who get up and be physical. And on Sunday, I thought we saw Patrick Peterson a heck of a lot more involved on defense. He wasn't strictly on Brandon Cooks all game long.
Right, like you said. I mean, in the past 4 or 5 years under Bruce Arians, he would have been on Brandon Cooks, played man-to-man, and followed him everywhere. Now, it was a dual-edged sword because Brandon Cooks had a great game. He had over 150 receiving yards. He had that long catch where if Patrick's guarding him on the long pass, maybe it's something where he could have broken that ball up because he's got the speed to stay with him. But you're right, Patrick was more involved definitely, and you just want to try to get him involved however you can. He's so talented, and when you play corner, it's hard because teams can go away from you. So that's why maybe in the running game he has more of an opportunity, or staying in the zone in certain areas he can maybe surprise a quarterback and get another interception. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think there will still be situations where maybe he does track a guy depending on what receiver comes up. But certainly the more involved you can get a guy like that, I think the better the defense is going to be.
Yeah, if you would have told me Patrick Peterson 8 tackles, usually that would take like a month.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on him. No. It's just he has a different role in this defense, and they're going to try to get him more involved, blitzing off the edge, coming up and supporting the run game and trying to get tackles there. Took a bad angle on Gurley in the game last week. So he's more involved, which, again, your playmakers need to be more involved because he has the ability anytime he touches the ball to take it back.
Well, and I think especially now because we're still trying to figure out that cornerback opposite Patrick Peterson. We thought it was going to be Jamar Taylor. Very well could still be, but he has struggled through the first 2 weeks. So I think it is important for 21 to kind of move around a little bit. And like you said, Kyle, it depends. If you're facing a true number one, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, then maybe, okay, you know what? Patrick, you just shadow Jones wherever he goes. And yes, Cooks is a good receiver, but that's not what the offense is based on with the Rams.
Right, yeah, they have many options, and so it made sense maybe to not track him in that situation. And I think overall, when you look at the defensive backs, I think the idea of playing zone, a lot of that is predicated on the pressure up front, and at some points they didn't get a lot of it. So we put a lot of emphasis on what some of these defensive backs didn't do in the game, and some of it is just because Jared Goff had a good clean pocket and had time to throw in rhythm, and any quarterback is going to do good in that situation. So you see a play like this where Buddha got him off his spot. You want the sack in that situation, but at least disrupting the timing of the play a little bit, forcing the receivers to get off their routes and try to do something else. I think anything like that where the quarterback isn't in rhythm is obviously going to help the defensive backs.
Yeah, and Taylor, I think he has the athleticism. Unfortunately, he's got the penalties, okay? Yes. And he was targeted 7 times in that game. He gave up 6 catches for over 100 yards. Now, to me, and we haven't seen the full practice yet, and we'll learn more game day, but Ben Wickery, we talked about his versatility inside, outside, and safety. And he's played for Wilkes, so he's not thinking, he's reacting. So I'd be curious to see if Taylor's still the corner. I mean, it's still early in the season, and he earned the right to be the starter to start the season. But Ben Wickery, to me, is another option and a valuable option because he knows the defense.
Well, I'll go back to what you said, Kyle, and that's the pressure from up front because
seven.
You're asking now these corners to cover receivers, tight ends, running backs for however long, but if you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, then all of a sudden it becomes an extra second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and I don't care how good Patrick Peterson or any corner out there, eventually
they'll get open.
Exactly, and that's, I think that's part of what we're seeing so far.
And in his zone, I mean, if you can make a guy throw it too soon, then your linebackers are involved because the receiver doesn't have the depth that maybe he needs. And we saw one where Josh Bynes tipped the pass that was almost an interception. So I think it's something where not only can they get open more, but if they have time, they can find the soft spots in the zone and sometimes just sit down and wait for the pass. So if you can get to them early, and I think that's when you can really get turnovers because the interceptions happen a lot easier in those situations.
Yeah, when you're playing zone, also you can bracket a guy and you can have over-the-top help so you're not giving up the deep balls or the splash plays.
That is Kyle Odegard as we make our way inside the Cardinals Film Room. Again, more can be found on azcardinals.com/film room, and we'll do it each and every Wednesday. Kyle, once again, good stuff. The Patrick Peterson interception in the third quarter. That was week 2. Let's look back on that game and look ahead as well to the Chicago Bears matchup in week 3 as we take you inside the numbers.
Inside the Numbers, presented by La Mesa RV, where you can experience life. Where to begin after Sunday's shutout loss in the LA Coliseum? We'll start with the defense, who once again found themselves at a disadvantage in field position. The Rams' average starting field position was their 39-yard line, 20 yards better than Arizona's. The defense improved against the run, limiting the Rams to 90 yards on the ground and Todd Gurley to only 2.2 yards per rush. But Los Angeles found success through the air as quarterback Jared Goff threw for 354 yards and a touchdown. Much of his success came on third down as the Rams converted on 8 of 13 attempts. Receiver Brandon Cooks was Goff's top target, hauling in 7 receptions for 159 yards. Patrick Peterson managed to intercept Goff for the 22nd pick of his career, 7 of which have come against the Rams. Another sliver of a bright spot on defense. Defensive end Benson Mayowa finished the game with 7 tackles and 2 sacks, and defensive tackle Robert Kimdichie continued to be disruptive through 2 games, managing 5 tackles, including a tackle for a loss on Sunday. Offensively, Arizona wasn't productive by any standards. Big Red managed only 137 net yards, 5 first downs, and only 3.2 yards per play. Third down continues to be a problem, converting only 3 of 12 attempts. Overall, the second quarter has been the Cardinals' Achilles heel through 2 games, having been outscored 40-0 in that quarter. Larry Fitzgerald reached yet another milestone. Fitzgerald has caught a pass in 213 consecutive games, now the second longest streak in NFL history, behind Jerry Rice's 274 consecutive games. Larry Legend has had success against the next opponent, the Chicago Bears. The last time the 2 teams met in 2015, Fitz lit up the Bears for 112 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. In 3 career games against Chicago, number 11 has 25 receptions for 346 yards and 5 touchdowns.
And the Cardinals will host the Chicago Bears on Sunday, 1:25 from State Farm Stadium. Of course, that means an 8:30 pregame coverage begins on the Arizona Cardinals radio network.
And I remember with David Johnson earlier in his career,
Week 2,
he returned a kickoff for a touchdown. That's when he was playing on special teams. And then obviously when we got to December because of injuries, that's when he became a starter.
Yeah, had also a rushing touchdown in that ball game, kind of his welcome to the NFL moments as a rookie. Before we get into your questions, quick shout out the Arizona Cardinals high school coach and players of the week. Congratulations to Highland's Brock Farrell. Highland is now 5-0, and Yuma Catholic quarterback Gage Reese. How about this, MJ? Threw for 609 yards and 7 touchdowns last Friday night. So congratulations to Highland and Yuma Catholic.
Do you have the attempts?
I don't have the attempts, but
that is
609 yards. Yeah,
He's young.
That's a lot of times moving the ball up and down the field.
He's young. Some guys are older. They have ice pack on their shoulder. He's young.
All right, time for the Bird Gang to sound off here on Cards Covered 2. Your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCovered2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. And from Twitter, question wants to know about the lack of receivers and would it be worth trading for Antonio Brown? And if so, what would it cost?
Well, first of all, it's not fantasy football. And
one, it's just not happening.
No.
Although, you know what? I'll say this. The narrative leading into the Khalil Mack trade was, well, the Raiders will never trade Mack. Never. You can't get rid of someone that valuable. And what happened? He got dealt to the Bears.
But they gave his agent an option to talk to teams, so that door was closed. And Gruden never even spoke to Khalil Mack when he took the job.
I don't think we're that far, but
no.
it's...
Listen, do the Cardinals need a receiver? Listen, if there's somebody out there they think is better than what they have, they'll sign the guy. These conversations take place in the offseason. So, again, he's not available, and right now it's more of a pipe. Dreaming is free, I should say.
Yes, it's just something to talk about here on
pipe
a
dream.
Wednesday. Let's go to Instagram. With the current roster, a user wants to know, will changing back to a 3-4 defense be an option?
No.
Should we just leave it at that?
No, I'll elaborate on it.
No, because we've discussed this, whether on Cardinal Talk or on Monday, that you've brought in a head coach and a defensive coordinator that are 4-3 based. You've done this now since April. 2 games into the season, it's quote-unquote not working. You're not going to make a switch.
And once again, if you watched the team last year, and I'm assuming everyone that's watching now did watch the Cardinals, they had a 5-man front. They're playing a 4-2-5, and it's a little bit different. But listen, that's their backbone. That's their DNA. When it comes to Steve Wilkes and Al Holcomb, they're not going to change. Now, again, they'll have a 4-man front, maybe 2 backers, and then they try to get their playmakers on the field with 3 safeties or 3 corners.
Staying on the defensive side of the football, Instagram user wants to know why Dayon Buchanan is not starting.
Well, he's struggling to pick up the system, and he's created some bad habits. And you go back to last year's film, I was told the same thing is happening. So, listen, he's still part of the mix. You definitely need him at certain times. But right now, Gerald Hodges has come in here and done a nice job. I don't think they're giving up on Buck, but he's got to learn. To me, there's a lot on his plate. Carlos Dansby helped him out last year because he was able to call the defense, and it was a different defense. Carlos was familiar with 3-4, but he's got to make the calls. He's got to get guys lined up, and it's a lot for one guy to do it. It's not going to happen overnight, but he still will get an opportunity. He'll play 25 to 35 snaps based on down and distance formation, so it's really a work in progress, very similar to Hassan Reddick.
Let's flip to the other side of the football and the offense. User wants to know, what differences can we expect as far as offensive play calling this week? And this is something that we've kind of been talking about most of the show here on this Wednesday, but certainly perhaps some maybe not exotic offensive looks, but just to do something to keep that defense guessing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, by simplifying the playbook means you're going to go with works for the players, and they're comfortable running those routes. They're comfortable in pass protection, run blocking. So they want to play faster, and you're basically not thinking. You're reacting to playing faster. And I do think we could see, some imaginary plays where we talked about the jet sweep.
Yep.
They showed it last week. They didn't give the ball to J.J. Nelson. Maybe over the next couple of weeks you give him the ball. You know how I feel about that in an extended run play. They're going to get the balls in their playmakers' hands, so that tells me David, Larry, Seals-Jones, and then who else gets separation? I think Kirk does. He'll be an option. And then we'll have to wait and see to some of these other guys that get an opportunity to dress and play wide receiver on game day.
And if Gresham is active
Good point.
on game day, that gives you another pass catcher, but more another blocker up front, which is something that he is much rather to do as far as catch the football. He would much rather block downfield. Last question via Instagram. What is the coach, talking about Steve Wilkes, going to do to change the attitude of the team?
I don't think we've questioned the effort. It's more about execution. I mean, they feel like if they can correct some of this stuff, it's very correctable. So you're not going to change in midstream. Now, when I say change, like completely change everything, you just can't do it. The 99% of the roster you see right now is going to be the roster this year, and they feel like they have the talent to make amends and start putting points on the board and stopping teams on third down. So I mean, yeah, I don't think he's going to give a speech on Saturday night. They know where they stand. They know they haven't been competitive. Now it's just a matter of going out there and executing.
Yeah, everyone in that locker room just look in the mirror and figure out what they can do individually to improve the team. Appreciate the Bird Gang sounding off here on this Wednesday using the hashtag CardsCover2. Hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. We do it each and every show towards the end, and we'll do it again on Wednesday when we rejoin you, get you set for Week 3. A reminder, you can watch Cards Cover 2 on azcardinals.com/live video, or also find us on YouTube. Just search Cards Cover 2, and of course, download it as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. Special thanks behind the scenes to Tim Delaney, Jim Omohundro, Devin Henry, Jeremy Schnell, plus Grant Grialou, Jonathan Hayward, Brandon Natus, Jesse Aranda, and Jackson Sipes. For Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. This has been Cards Cover 2. We come to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 p.m. We'll do it again Friday afternoon. Get you set for Cardinals and Bears in Week 3.